Hey guys, how's it going? So today's video may be posted a little bit later because it took me a minute to set up this review. So I'm going to skim through parts of it to keep the video at a reasonable length, parts that I don't think are terribly difficult that I think we seem to have a pretty good grasp on, and others I'll try to spend a little bit more time on. We will have a Shurley chapter 12 and 13 quiz on Friday. It's probably going to be 25, 30 questions. Probably count as anywhere between a 25 and 50 point quiz grade. I haven't fully decided yet. I haven't made up all the questions yet, but it will be posted Friday morning. I want you to take your time with it. It's open book, it's open video. This video in particular is probably going to be very useful for it, considering I'm the one making the quiz and I'm the one making this review. They'll be pretty similar. Today you do have a Shurley chapter 13 lesson 3 exercise posted on double negatives. Shouldn't be terribly difficult. It's multiple choice. You just go through and select which sentence is not a double negative, which one only contains one negative word. That should be pretty easy to do. If you're confused by that, look at that reference in chapter 13 lesson 3 that shows negative words and make sure you're picking a sentence that only has one of those, not more than one. With that said, I think double negatives are pretty simple. I'll look at the grades on this assignment to verify that, but if we all do well on it, I probably won't have that be a huge focus of the quiz, and I'm also not going to spend a ton of time on it in the review today. I will go over it briefly, but I'm mostly going to spend time on things like personal pronouns and antecedents. So let's get into that. I've got a little key made out there at the top. Red is antecedent, blue is pronoun. You can see in those sentences there. That might be something good to screenshot and have to look at as a reference when you take a quiz or do any exercises based on this. So antecedent, again, that anta prefix means before, okay? At the top, at the key, I've put the antecedent before the pronoun. So when I say pronoun, let me type this out so that we'll have a good reference for it. So when I say pronoun, in your Shurley system, this can be a subject pronoun, it can be an object of the preposition, it can be a PPA, it can be a direct object, or it can be an indirect object, but only if these things are pronouns. PPAs and SPs are obviously always pronouns. Object of the preposition, direct object, indirect object, if it's a word like him, her, it, them, they, things like that. Well, not they, that's a subject, but them, us, any words like those are pronouns. Okay, if you need a list of pronouns, there's a list of object pronouns in your Shurley book. I don't remember the exact chapter. You could flip back to the table of contents and find that, and that'd give you a good reference point. But if it's not a pronoun, it's obviously not going to have an antecedent. Okay, so what we're looking for in these sentences, first you have to find the pronoun in the sentence. Usually on these assignments, I'm going to have the pronoun already underlined or all caps or something like that for you. Like I said, I've got them blue here. So, and then I'll ask you to find the antecedent. So my mom broke her foot. So her is a PPA. It shows ownership of foot, so it's possessive pronoun adjective. So then we have to figure out who her refers back to. It's obviously mom. That's the only female person in that sentence it could be talking about. You can have issues, and we'll go over this if I have you for 7th grade, where you have an unclear antecedent. You could have a sentence where you have a pronoun that you're not sure who it refers back to in the sentence. I'm not going to give you any examples of that right now because I don't want to make it confusing, but that is an issue that comes up. But in these sentences I give you, it's always going to be clear. That's why I bring that up. You're always going to have one specific thing that is the antecedent for the pronoun, or multiple if it's a plural pronoun. So next one, the dog chased its tail. Its is a PPA, shows ownership of tail. So who is this it that's chasing its tail? It's the dog, obviously. The next one shows you an example of it showing up in 2 separate sentences. The man was very tall. He had to duck under the door frame. So in the first sentence, there's obviously no pronoun. In the second one, it starts with one. It starts with a subject pronoun, he. So since we've been introduced to a tall man in the first sentence, it's obvious that he refers to man. That's the one who had to duck under the door frame. So man would be the antecedent for he. Sentence 4 gives us a plural. So Sharon and Bill sold their car. There is a PPA. It shows ownership of the car. Who is this they who's selling their car? Sharon and Bill. There refers back to Sharon and Bill. Sharon and Bill are both antecedents of their. So if you have a plural pronoun like they, we, us, our, their, anything like that, it's usually going to have multiple antecedents, or it might have a plural antecedent. So if I said the men sold their car, men would be the antecedent for there because men is already plural. So it could either be multiple singular antecedents like Sharon and Bill, or the boy and the girl, or it could be one plural one like the men or the Jeffersons, anything like that. And then I've got a compound sentence in number 5. John tried to duck, but the ball hit him in the face. So him is the direct object in the sentence. It's who's being hit or what's being hit. Whom is being hit is technically the correct English. Me being an English teacher, I should say that. So whom is being hit by the ball? The ball is hitting whom? Him. So who is this him we're referring to? It's obviously John. He's the only male person in this sentence, the only person in this sentence who could be hit. In the face is kind of there to trick you. It's obviously a prepositional phrase. A lot of you get tricked a little bit when we're talking about direct objects. You want to say the ball hit face, but face is the object of the preposition, not the direct object of the sentence. So, but we're not worried about that in these sentences, so don't get tied up in that. Just find the pronoun, find what precedes it that it refers back to. So him refers back to John. I think that's probably the most difficult thing, the thing we struggled with the most. That's why I spent more time on it. Indefinite pronouns, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on. We generally did well with this. This is just, identifying them in sentences. That's all I'll ask you to do. Again, it's pretty straightforward. I've got the suffixes and the prefixes, which are endings and beginnings there, and other ones that are common that show up. If it's not on this list or a combination of one of those prefixes and suffixes, I'm not going to put it on the quiz or ask you about it this year. Like I said, I'm sure there are a few that I didn't put on the list that I missed, but I'm not going to ask you about them. If they're not on this list, they won't show up. So if you memorize this list that I've posted here, or if you have this as a reference and you find these words and sentences when I ask you, you will get them correct. I could do the thing where I say something like many teachers, blah, 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 blah. And many is an adjective telling how many teachers. I won't do that. That's tricky. It would be mean for me to do that. If we were in school and I could show you the difference between using one of these words as an adjective and using it as a pronoun on its own, maybe. But being that we're not, I'm not going to do that. So don't worry about any trickery on these. And on these and on the quiz, if one of these words shows up in a sentence, that is an indefinite pronoun. And if it's in the section on indefinite pronouns, that's the one you need to pick. And what I'm talking about with where you can use it with an adjective, I could say many teachers love to teach in the morning. I don't. Actually, I don't know. Morning classes aren't bad. But many teachers, many is telling you how many teachers, it's an adjective. If I said many love to teach in the mornings, then it's an indefinite pronoun. I am not going to give you the many teachers thing, okay? It can happen. I'm just telling you so you'll know, but I'm not going to do it on the quiz. I think that would be a little unfair. There at the top are some example sentences. I posted these with that other video showing you indefinite pronouns in sentences. In all these sentences, they act as the subject pronoun. They can also act as the object in the sentence, either object of the preposition, direct object, indirect object. They can go anywhere that a normal pronoun can go outside of being a PPA. And you could technically make them possessive by just adding an apostrophe S, but I think you would technically call them a PNA in that case. But either way, these are just some examples, but basically anytime you see any of those words, someone, few, either, both, each, those are going to be indefinite pronouns. All right, so pattern 5 sentences with predicate adjectives. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this. Again, it's just like predicate nouns, except we've got a linking verb. So I've got the predicate adjectives highlighted in red, by the way, if you couldn't tell, in case you're colorblind. So am, tall, right? So this isn't like I kicked the ball, but it's set up the same way. So if it said I kicked Jim, poor Jim, if it says I kicked Jim, that would be a pattern 4 sentence, right? Subject, noun, verb transitive, direct object, so on and so forth. Actually, I think that's pattern 3. I think pattern 4's got indirect object. But anyway, it's a sentence with a subject, a verb, and a direct object. If I say I kicked Jim, because it's an action verb, kick is an action. This is the same thing, except we have a linking verb instead. So what you're going to do with these sentences, if I ask you to identify the predicate adjective, you're going to find the linking verb, okay? So you're going to find the verb in the sentence. You're going to find what it connects the subject to. So you obviously have to find the subject as well. So I am, something is something, right? I am. So what is I? It's tall, okay? So that's our predicate adjective. Same thing here, are, so something is something again. So they are what? Nice. Not very nice, very describes nice, but we're just looking for the adjective. They are nice. Your mom seems angry. This is a little bit trickier. Seems here is a linking verb. It's not one of the super common ones like am, is, are, was, were, has been, anything like that. but it still operates as a linking verb. So, and you can always trust that in these types of sentences, if I'm asking you to find a predicate adjective, the verb is a linking verb. So mom seems what? Angry. Pretty simple. Your new shoes are cool. So shoes are what? Shoes are cool. Football team is extremely talented and popular. This is to show you that there can be compound predicate adjectives. So something is our verb. Team is what? Talented and popular. Extremely, again, it's an adverb. We don't need that. So what is the team? The team is talented and popular. Again, I think those are pretty straightforward. I don't think we struggled with those too much. Basically, you're looking for words in the predicate of the sentence that are tied back into the subject and describe it in some way. Okay, they're not going to show up in the subject because they're predicate adjectives. They work like predicate nominatives, which we talked about, which have a linking verb. And actually, that was pattern 4, wasn't it? Yeah, I believe it was with predicate nominatives, where it's like I am a teacher. Same process, except for instead of teacher, instead of a noun, you've got, I am tall. You've got an adjective there at the end. So comparative adjectives and adverbs, this was a mixed bag I noticed with yesterday's exercise. Some of us did really, really well with this. Some of us struggled with it. I'm going to encourage you to look at the chart, look at these rules that I've given you here, especially the bit about words with multiple syllables, and especially knowing that if a word is an adverb, which most adverbs we know end in ly. An adverb is something you would use to describe a verb in a sentence. If it's an adverb, you're always going to use more, most, less, or least. Also, remember, less and least are still superlative and comparative and superlative, respectively. So less is comparative, least is superlative. So if I ask you for the superlative form of something and least whatever is there and it's correct based on the number of syllables in the word, that is superlative. Okay, same thing with less. Just because it's not more or most, don't get too tied up in more and most, right? It can be more or less, and it can be most or least. And this depends again on the syllables in the word and all that, because we may add er, est, depending on the way the word is actually set up. And I've given you those rules here. They're in your book. There are references in your book. If you want to look at this while taking the quiz tomorrow, if you want to look back at the book, I think both are helpful. Whichever one helps you more, go with that. If you need more explanation on this, let me know. I know some of you get it better from the video. Some of you get it better from looking at a book. That's fine either way. Whatever helps you the most is fine with me. But this is just some examples. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because I talked about it a good bit a couple days ago. So double negatives is what we're doing today. Again, I think this is very simple. This is pretty much the same thing I put up yesterday. I'll just talk about it briefly again. No matter how many negatives there are in a sentence, your goal is to get it down to 1, okay, in a way that maintains the meaning. Now, this change the meaning bit, I did not put this in the assignment today. I'm not going to put it on the quiz on Friday. I'm not going to give you one where there's an option that only has one negative that is wrong, okay? This one, like I said, it's technically wrong because it changes the original intended meaning of the sentence. The way I've set up the exercise today and the way I will set up the quiz for Friday is such that any of your questions will have basically 3 options that are incorrect because they have more than one negative, be it 2, 3, 76, whatever. And there will be one sentence that has only one negative, okay? And they'll all be variations on the same sentence. It'll be like, I ain't never eating at McDonald's, or I'm not never eating at McDonald's. I won't never eat at McDonald's, or I won't ever eat at McDonald's. And obviously, I won't ever is the only one with one negative, the only one that sounds like correct, non-redneck English. I can say that because I grew up in redneck USA. So that's obviously the correct answer. I'm not going to give you anything like this where I can say, you changed the meaning, so you're wrong. So don't freak out about that. Don't think I'm going to try to trick you on those. Again, I'm trying to make this relatively simple. This is another of those things where if we were in school and I could show you on the board, why this doesn't work and why it has to be one of these. Yeah, I might give you 1 or 2 on a test like that, but we're not. We're doing this online, so I'm going to try to make it fairly simple. And again, some more examples down through here. This one again has 4 negatives in it. You just reduce it to 1, however you want to. Any of those 4 would work. And you don't have to worry about changing meaning when you got that many negatives because we have no clue what the original sentence could have meant anyway. So anything like that is fine. Just reduce it to 1 negative. Find that basically on today's exercise and the quiz on Friday, when you get to this section on double negatives, which will probably be pretty short unless we struggle with it today, I want you to just find the option that has 1 negative word. If you need a reference chart of negative words, there's one in 13.3 in your book. Look at that. Have it open while you take the quiz. That's totally fine with me. That'd probably be really useful. That's probably what I would do. I think that's it. Let me know if you have any questions. Get your poetry projects submitted by midnight Friday. I probably won't post a video on Friday. I'll probably just post a little text reminder on Google Classroom for all of the classes saying, hey, make sure you get your poetry project done. Here's your quiz assignment. Look back at the video, the previous video. If you need some more guidelines on it, use your Shurley book and all that. Because I want you to have plenty of time to take that quiz, and I want you to have plenty of time to work on your poetry projects if you don't have them done, to polish them up, to email them to me for feedback, so on and so forth. Because I'll help you. If you email it to me at 6 p.m. on Friday afternoon, I'd rather you not do that. Please don't. But if you do, if you're struggling, go ahead and do it. I'll look at it. I'll get it back to you. I'll say, hey, fix this, or hey, it looks good, whatever. Like I said, I've probably had, about 10 students email me their poetry project so far and say, hey, does this look like what you're looking for? So far, pretty much all of them do. Pretty much everybody's on the right track. A few people confused about some small things, but nothing major. So I think they're going to be pretty good and going to help our grades out a lot. But let me know if you have any questions about that, today's video, today's assignment, or the quiz coming up on Friday, and I will see you guys.